Buddhism doesn't write the notes for me, but it absolutely and positively affects how I look at everything. Buddhism is uncovering and leading a creative life, and in the process, establishing your own story. A common viewpoint holds that one's destiny is predetermined by external forces. However, the practice of Buddhism can break through that notion and carve out the kind of life where you're the author of your book and not the co-author or a character in someone else's story. You may wonder, how can this be accomplished? But first, let me tell you how I came to find Buddhism. It was 1972, and my entire focus was devoted to music. And I longed to develop and improve the percentages of times I felt my playing was on point and things were flowing. The so-called, good nights. And the main reason that I entertained that idea was due to an experience I had in Seattle with a maestro of the bass, Buster Williams, who was a member of Mwandishi, my avant-garde space band that depended so much on the intuition and empathy of the musicians, where a lot was left up to the moment and what I believed at the time, chance. Well, one Thursday evening after our gig, a fan invited us to several parties. And since we were all young guys and wanted to have fun, we all went out and painted the town red and every other color in the crayon box. We eventually hauled ourselves slowly back to the hotel and had at the most 2 hours of sleep. At the club, no one felt like playing. But it was a Friday night, and the place was jam-packed. So we dragged ourselves onto the stage, and although we had some energy, it wasn't nearly enough. My initial thought was that I was going to pass the buck since I didn't have it in me to set the pace. So I called an uncharacteristic first tune called Toys. That begins with a solo bass intro. Now, the acoustic bass is the softest instrument in the band. And it was an odd choice to open up the night with this tune, Toys. Buster started improvising, and I couldn't believe my ears. Previously unheard of sounds were coming out of his instrument. He also employed some new techniques that looked physically impossible. Check this out. His hand was moving up the bass, 2 fingers were trilling 2 different strings, his pinky was sliding up the 3rd string, and his, sliding up the third string, right? And the thumb was sliding down the 4th string, right? The bass neck was on his shoulder. All 5 fingers were on the fingerboard, right? And he's got this trilling going on. Anyway, after hearing and seeing him perform this feat once, I was amazed. And then he looked up the neck of the bass, and he did it again. The audience went crazy, and all eyes and ears were concentrated on his every fantastic move. Then I felt myself waking up. The band finally came in to play the melody, and I could tell by the way the band hit that they woke up too. We wound up playing this magical, spiritual set that felt like an adventure, a journey going in several directions. At the end of the show, people rushed up to the stage, many of them in tears. And for the first time, I heard the crowd say that they hadn't merely heard the music, they experienced it. After the show, I took Buster back to the dressing room and asked him about this new philosophy or something that I heard he was exploring. And if you could make him play the bass like that, I wanted to know what it was. Actually, his eyes lit up. And he told me he'd been chanting for a way to tell me about it. And at that moment, it occurred to me that the only real way he could have reached me was through the music. If whatever he was chanting produced that bridge to reach me, I was even more open to hearing what he had to say. He explained that he'd been practicing Buddhism and that he'd been chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. What's Buddhism about? What's this practice of Buddhism? Many questions were forming in the back of my mind. And my questions were answered with straightforward, practical answers that made straightforward, logical sense. And curiously, each time I'd ask a question, his answer would satisfy 4 or 5 others I was waiting to ask. My interest was piqued because aside from the Buddhist clarity, there was optimism, trust, and an innate respect for all human beings. The more I listened, the more I hoped this was what I was looking for and that it would work for me. Buster had only been practicing about 3 weeks at the time. It's remarkable. Our short discussion was exciting and exhilarating. I wanted to know about the meaning of Buddha, and I learned that it's a condition of being awakened and aware that everyone possesses it already. I learned that Buddhists believe life is eternal, meaning it has no beginning and no end. Now, ever since I was 10 or 11 years old, I believed that life had no ending, but it never occurred to me that life had no beginning. So what's Nam Myoho Renge Kyo? Well, Buster said it's the law of the universe, the rhythm of life. And that by saying these words over and over again, we align ourselves with this rhythm. Buster also said that because it's a law, like gravity or electromagnetic force, chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo works whether you believe it or not. He encouraged me to try it out and see for myself, which I did. Naturally, the word rhythm appealed to me. The power of sound, which I know music exemplifies, is kind of what chanting is about. Buster said that Buddhism involves not only the spiritual world, but the physical world as well. Both are like 2 sides of the same coin. And that chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, done with the voice, is internal and external because it's sound. As a matter of fact, basically, Kyo means sound. Could this be the answer I was looking for to help me enhance my musical performance? Over the past 42 years, I've studied, practiced, and learned more, but these were the initial inklings that stimulated my curiosity. Practicing Nichiren Buddhism reveals a major shift in one's perception of the relationship between you and the external environment you experience. Through faith, practice, and study, you can illuminate this connection and uncover an entirely new perspective that gives you true freedom to be the captain of your ship and command and control the adventure of your life. The conventional perspective makes us a slave to the environment, but the truth is quite the opposite. The environment doesn't necessarily have to change, but we do. As a matter of fact, seeing the environment as a cause is a delusion. The reality is that cause is within your own life, and you have the innate power to transform yourself and advance, expand, and develop a happy life for yourself and for others through this practice. A new clarity opens up great inspiration for creativity. Let's look at this list of characteristics of creativity again. Inspiration, hard work, challenge, never give up spirit, courage, originality, and innovation, ability or skill, imagination. Could these characteristics apply to your life too? Artists in the cultural fields aren't the only people to possess these keys. Each of you is a key holder too. This afternoon, I've tried to combine Buddhism and creativity together from my own experiences. I truly believe that my life as a musician and a human being has been profoundly transformed by the impact of Buddhism on my music and my life. Among the many lessons I've learned from my life mentor, Daisaku Ikeda, is the concept of living a creative life, and this applies to everyone. It's a life that we're all capable of creating by utilizing many of these same characteristics that are inherent in human life. A broader perspective of these characteristics reveals that there's no essential difference between artists of culture and everyone else. A person who can live with imagination, hard work, innovation, along with integrity, wisdom, and compassion, in spite of their difficult circumstances, can be a profound contributor toward the creation of a harmonious human orchestra of life, therefore emerging like a beautiful lotus blossoming in the muddy swamp. And I hope all of us can agree that we are all artists playing the music, writing the script, or painting the picture of our lives. Concerning the mastery of an art form, I believe that the art of living is, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the most difficult to master. Thank you for joining me. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you.